All right, buckle up, everybody, because today we are taking a deep dive into the world of Kabbalah.
Specifically, the Book of Zohar.
Ah, yes, the Zohar.
Not exactly light reading, is it?
Definitely not something you breeze through by the pool.
Yeah. Hi.
More like you need to be in the right headspace, you need your thinking cap on.
And even then, it can feel like you're wandering through a maze in the dark sometimes.
But so we've heard those who do brave the labyrinth, they come out with these incredible insights.
Uh-huh. Moments.
Exactly. Like suddenly the world just makes a little more sense.
You start to see those hidden connections.
Yeah. So for those of us who, maybe haven't quite earned our Kabbalah PhDs yet, what is the Zohar?
In a nutshell, well, imagine a text so profound, so layered with meaning, that it actually claims to be a book of concealed mystery prepared for the righteous in the time of their distress at the end of exile.
Whoa. Okay, so not just your average book then.
Not all.
So even though this book, it popped up like, what, 1800 years ago or something?
Oh, and then, yeah.
It's saying this is for you in the future dealing with modern life and
Yeah.
all its craziness.
Exactly. It's a message for our times.
Cosmic time-release wisdom. That's one way to put it. But who actually wrote this thing? Was it like mystical beings etching on golden tablets?
It's a bit more grounded than that, thankfully. Legend has it that the Zohar was written by a Rabbi Shimon bar Yochai. You'll often hear him called Rashbi and his son. They were seeking refuge in a cave.
Hiding out in a cave, writing a mystical text, that tracks.
And get this, the cave still exists. People travel from all over to visit it, to feel the energy of the place where these teachings were transcribed.
Wow, a cave classroom. That's one way to get away from distractions. So I have to ask, why does all this matter to, John or Jane listening right now? I mean, this sounds fascinating, like ancient history and mystical caves, but how does it connect to our lives in the 21st century?
That's the beauty of the Zohar, you see. It's not content with being some historical artifact.
It has a bigger purpose.
Absolutely. It aims to be a guidebook for understanding the very essence of reality.
And not in some abstract, head in the clouds way.
Right. Not just philosophy. The Zohar offers practical tools for transforming ourselves, for aligning our desires with a higher purpose, for experiencing true and lasting fulfillment.
Okay, I'm intrigued. Transforming ourselves, aligning with a higher purpose. That sounds like something we could all use a little more of these days.
I'd say so.
But how do we actually do that? Where do we even begin to unpack a text as complex as the Zohar? So we're talking about transformation, aligning with a higher purpose.
Right, but it's not exactly a walk in the park, is it?
Definitely not a Zohar for dummies kind of situation.
Not quite. Think of it more like, learning a new language.
Okay, I like that.
It takes time, effort, practice. But once you grasp those basic building blocks,
The grammar, the vocabulary.
exactly, you can start to unlock a whole new world of understanding.
So what are some of those key words, those grammatical rules in this language of the Zohar? Where do we even begin?
Let's start with one of the most fundamental concepts in Kabbalah.
The Sephirot.
The Sephirot. Okay. These are 10 spiritual forces, 10 emanations of divine energy that make up all of reality.
Okay, hold on. 10 forces? That sounds a little, I don't know,
A little overwhelming.
just a tad. How do we even wrap our heads around that?
I try to picture a tree, roots reaching deep into the earth, branches stretching up to the heavens.
Okay, I can see it.
That's a common metaphor for the Sephirot. The first Sephira, Keter, it's like the root of the tree.
The source.
Exactly. Pure potential where everything begins.
Okay, so if Keter is the root, what about the branches? Where do we fit into this cosmic tree?
That's where Malshut comes in. Malshut is the 10th Sephira, representing the physical world.
Our world, the world of action.
Exactly. You could think of it as the fruit of the tree, the culmination of all the energy flowing through the other Sephirot.
So Keter is the source, Malchut is the manifestation, and everything in between is how that energy flows and transforms.
You've got it. And each Sephira, it represents a different quality, a different attribute. You've got Chokmah, which is wisdom and insight. Bina, understanding, discernment. Chesed is loving kindness. Gavura is strength and discipline. Tiferet, harmony, balance.
Hold on, I'm trying to keep up. This is like a whole vocabulary list.
Right. There's Netzach, perseverance, Had, humility, Yesod, connection and foundation, and they all work together, you see.
It's like each Sephir is a different aspect of ourselves, isn't it? Different qualities we embody, or maybe qualities we're working on, trying to develop.
Precisely. And the Zohar teaches us that these Sephiros aren't just like abstract concepts floating around, They're dynamic forces constantly interacting within us, around us.
So we've explored these individual forces, the Sephiroth,
Right.
but the Zohar also talks about how they interact, how they combine.
Absolutely. That's where we get to the concept of partsufim.
Partsufi, okay, another new word. Hit me with it.
Think of them as spiritual faces, like configurations of the Sephro. Different ways they can interact, combine, creating unique expressions of that divine energy.
Okay, so I'm starting to see how this all fits together. But how does it relate to us down here in the, not so mystical world? How can understanding these Sephiro, these Partsufim, actually help us in our daily lives?
That, my friend, is where things get really interesting. The Zohar teaches that by understanding these dynamics of the Sephiro, we can actually begin to influence them. We can refine, elevate our own being. And one of the key ways we do that is through this concept of returning light, or hoser in Hebrew.
Or hoser, returning light. Okay, now you're speaking my language. Tell me more about this or hoser. Or hoser, returning light. Okay, yeah, I like the sound of that. It's like a beacon in the middle of this mystical maze we've been exploring. So break it down for me. What's the deal with this or hoser?
Okay, picture this. Every time you resist, like a selfish impulse.
Well, so every day of my life then.
Right. Every time you choose, say, kindness over judgment, generosity instead of greed.
Putting those good vibes out there.
Exactly. You're essentially sending this burst of energy back to the source. Back to Keter, remember?
Back at the root of the tree.
And that act, that conscious choice to align with your higher self, it draws down a responding wave. Spiritual light, or hoser.
So it's like a cosmic boomerang. You throw out good energy and the universe is like, here, have some more.
You got it. And this returning light, it's not just some abstract idea, It has a real impact on our lives.
Things start shifting.
It empowers us to grow, to transform, become more aligned with our soul's purpose.
Okay, I see how this all connects now.
Mm-hmm.
We learn about these Sephiro, these different parts of ourselves in the universe.
Mm.
We start to see how they're playing out in our lives.
Right, and then what?
And then through conscious choices, through acts of, you could say, spiritual generosity, we draw down this Orhoser, this returning light.
Yeah.
And that helps us evolve.
Precisely. And that process of evolution, refining our character, aligning with our purpose, that's what the Zohar calls tikkun. Correction. That makes it sound like we're all just walking around, full of flaws, trying to fix ourselves.
Well, the Zohar might say we're all works in progress. But correction doesn't have to be negative.
Yeah. Think of it more like sculpting. We all start with this raw material, this potential.
Okay, I like that.
And through our choices, our actions, we slowly shape ourselves into something more refined, beautiful, and more aligned with that divine blueprint within us.
Shaping ourselves, I like that. Sculpting with the raw material of our being definitely feels more empowering than just trying to fix what's broken. But what does this tikkun, this refining, actually look like in everyday life? Give me an example, something we can relate to.
Well, the Zohar uses a lot of metaphors. One that comes to mind is it compares selfish desires to a dog and altruistic desires to a lion.
Hold on. Dogs aren't all bad. My dog would be very offended by that comparison.
Of course. It's not literal, right? It's more about the different energies they represent.
Okay, I'm listening.
Think about it. A dog, as loving as they operate on instinct. Mostly.
It's all about the belly rubs and the treat.
Exactly. They want food, attention, belly rubs. Nothing wrong with that. It's their nature.
Right.
So the dog here, it represents those instinctive desires we have, those impulses to grab, consume, prioritize our own needs above all else.
Okay, I see where you're going with this.
The lion, on the other hand, represents a different energy. Courage, generosity, that willingness to protect, provide for others.
So it's not about getting rid of those dog-like desires completely.
Right.
It's more about recognizing them and then making a conscious effort to align ourselves with that lion energy within us. Choosing generosity over greed, courage over comfort.
Now you're getting it. And that choice, that internal shift, that's where tikkun, that refining process, really starts taking shape. And the Zohar is full of these metaphors, these teachings that can help us understand those inner dynamics, the battles between our dog and lion natures.
This has been quite the deep dive. I have to say, I'm really starting to appreciate the wisdom packed into the Zohar. It's not just some ancient text gathering dust on a shelf. It's like a guidebook for navigating life.
That's what's so incredible about it. It speaks to something deep within us, this longing for connection, for meaning, for a way to move beyond the limits of our ego, tap into something so much greater.
Like the Zohar is saying, Hey, you have all this incredible potential inside you, all these tools for growth and transformation. Now let's explore them. Let's unlock them together.
Beautifully put.
So for someone listening who's feeling called to explore these ideas further, what advice would you give them? Where do they even start?
The Zohar can feel intimidating, for sure. But there are so many paths into its wisdom. Finding a teacher, a study group, those can be really helpful.
For sure, for navigating those twists and turns.
Absolutely. Or even just starting with something simple.
Like what?
Maybe choose a passage from the Zohar, meditate on it each day, let those words wash over you, see what sparks inside.
So it's not about becoming a scholar overnight. It's about coming to the Zohar with an open mind, a willingness to learn, and a good dose of curiosity.
Exactly. The Zohar, like life, it's a journey, not a destination.
Well said. A huge thank you for joining us on this deep dive into the Zohar. It's been, well, enlightening to say the least.
My pleasure. Always a joy to talk about the Zohar.
And for you listening, we hope this has sparked your curiosity to explore these ancient teachings for yourself. Remember, as the Zohar reminds us, the light in a person's soul is still there, always waiting to be revealed. Until next time, keep seeking, keep questioning, and keep shining your light.